Hey, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. My husband and I are proud grandparents to 7 grandchildren, and along the way we've had all different sorts of activities that we've done with each of them. My youngest granddaughter, Lucy, has decided that this room that she sleeps in at my house, that there could possibly be fairies out in our garden. For the last 6 months, when we open up these blinds, she'll say, "Are there fairies out there?" Well, guess what? Her dreams are coming true today because Cold Creek Nurseries is joining me in just a minute, and we're going to get started on a fairy garden, and I'm going to put together a fairy garden tea. So let's walk outside and get started.
Hi. I'm so glad you're here, everybody. This is Meredith and Connie and Michaela, all from Cold Creek Nurseries. And, you know, I heard through the grapevine that if you were going to do a fairy garden, there was one place you needed to go, and that was to Cold Creek. So I am so thrilled that we're going to make Lucy's dream come true today. And McClendon and Jane are going to just enjoy being part of it. So, you know, tell me a little bit about this. How long have you guys been doing this?
So Cold Creek's been part of Aiken for 38 years. We have a garden center right off the Aiken-Augusta Highway here in Aiken. And fairy gardening, though, it's a really hot trend right now. It's probably the hottest trend in gardening. People see it on Pinterest and on Facebook. But it's actually not such a new trend.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny. Small scale gardens like terrariums and miniature gardens have been popular through the 70s. And Connie here used to make fairy gardens 30 years ago. But they're really popular right now. Actually, fairy gardens really became a thing back in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair. That's when the first fairy garden was made. So we go all the way back that far. Not Cold Creek, but the trend does. So we've had a lot of fun with it here at Cold Creek.
Oh, well, I am so excited. You know, in terms of, you know, the yard is kind of a mess, and, you know, but I've thought so much about the fact that you can see this area from the children's room that they sleep in at my house. So what all do you have to do to get this yard ready to get started with this?
Right, well, the first thing you want to do with any garden is just consider your space. So right here is a great spot. We've got a lot of room. You've got filtered sunlight. That's really important. Is it sunny? Is it shady? Is it going to be inside or out? A lot of people do indoor fairy gardens. For that purpose, you'd want to use tropical plants. Out here, we can use perennials and all kinds of flowers and fun things.
Oh, great.
So once you know your space, you can think about your plant selection, and then you pick your spot. So here we've got this great area around the tree, plenty of space. What we did first was clear the area. So we want to get rid of all that debris. And then we want to see just how big we want to go. So in here we've got our perimeter with stones. You can use any kind of, people use popsicle sticks or tree branches or mulch, all kinds of things. But we picked these stones here. We've outlined our space. And then the most important thing from here is to amend your soil. In South Carolina, Georgia, and throughout the Southeast, we have a lot of sand and clay.
Right.
But if you want your garden to be successful, you've got to start with good dirt. So we used our Fafford potting mix, which is a really great all-purpose mix. It's what we use at Cold Creek. And we mixed it with some organic material. We chose black cow topsoil. It's full of nutrients. It's really going to help your garden thrive and look nice year-round.
Oh, wow. So as you said, you need to consider your space. So with the space, you also have to consider maintenance to that space. So the smaller it is, certainly the easier it is to care for. But if you've got the ability to have a little bit more space, and certainly this dogwood tree makes a great way to present this garden. So in terms of this space here, are you comfortable with us being able to do quite a bit in this area?
Absolutely. What's cool about having a space this big is we're actually going to be able to build a whole fairy garden, or a whole fairy village rather. What I like about fairy gardening, you can go as small as a teacup. I've seen teacup fairy gardens. All you need is a container, the soil, the plants, and the accessories, and you have a fairy garden. And you can go big like this and have a whole village.
Well, we're going to definitely have a village, and as we continue working on this process, I want you to come back with us after the break because we are going to be putting together some food because, you know, I've got to have some food at my tea party. So come back with us in just a few minutes.
so excited about the fairy garden and even more excited about the menu for the tea. And you know, fruit is the perfect answer for children from the ages of 2 to 6. So I've got 2 different things that are appropriate for both age groups. The Ladybug strawberries, just take a clean strawberry that you've cut in half. I've cut the top stem off, and then I've got little miniature chocolate chips that I'm just going to press into the back. And there you have the back of your little ladybug that'll be resting in the fairy garden on one of those little houses. And I've chosen a leaf platter to put those on, perfect for that. Then for your wand made out of grapes and honeydew, you want to make sure that you just use a wooden skewer, easily skewer the green grapes and leave enough place for a handle at the bottom. And then your topper is a honeydew star that'll just go right on the top. This is for the older children, so perfect wand for a king or a queen. So let's walk outside and see how they're coming on the fairy garden.
Oh, Meredith, oh my gosh, I can't get over this. This looks incredible. Well, tell me what all you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. So like we mentioned before, we've got our scene all set, the soil is ready, and now's the fun part. We get to really dig in the dirt. So if you're going to make a fairy garden like this, especially on a big scale, you want to have a game plan. So we made a sketch of what we're going to do. We mentioned we're going to have a whole village in here. So we have a lot of scenes and vignettes that we want to set. And to do that, Michaela and Connie are working now on building up some mounds that are going to become hills for us, and we've got some valleys and some gaps that we'll put a bridge over and all kinds of fun stuff. But it all starts with getting the landscape right. So that's what they're doing now. And we have selected some great plants that are going to work nicely in this space. We've got a lot of evergreen stuff like the heuchera, which is that bushy with the colorful foliage.
Yeah, love that.
And we had to have some flowers. So we've got the violas, which everybody knows in fall violas are perfect because they love the cold weather and they'll actually keep blooming even in January and February. And they're small, so they work for a miniature scale. And we're working on digging and getting those planted just right. We've also got some bulbs here, which are going to be kind of fun. Fall is the best time of year to plant bulbs. They need a period of cold to really do their thing in the spring. And so we've got some miniature daffodils, miniature crocuses, and we are planting those in the ground, and you won't see them, you'll forget about them.
And
but in the spring,
those come up like what time of year, like in March?
Yeah, March.
Okay.
The crocus actually sometimes at the end of February.
Okay.
So it's a great thing. You kind of plant it, forget about it, and then you have all this really fun color, again, on that small scale.
So with the grandchildren, that'll be one thing that we can also talk about. The fairies can move around, but we can also say, gosh, I wonder if anything new is blooming in the fairy garden.
Exactly, and they'll be able to really peek and watch through that window and see those stalks coming up, and it's really exciting, and we love bulb gardening for that reason. So, like I said, everything we've got here will tolerate the cold. We've got Blue Star Creeper with the small green leaves. It's got some cute little blue flowers. Again, we're trying to pick small plants.
Right.
And those will work perfectly for this fairy size as trees and bushes.
And those will just kind of spread out on top of the dirt.
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah, they'll mound a little bit. They've got kind of a mounding growth habit.
All right.
Which would be great for this space. And again, we've got these hills and scenes set because we want to have little sections and different things going on, and imagining as a child is going to play with this, all the adventures and stories they can make up with all these accessories that we're going to be getting to soon.
Oh, wow.
We've also got a little gap in the middle there right next to Connie where she's working right now that we're going to have some stepping stones leading up to the tree, which will be a perfect spot for Lucy and the other grandkids to sit while they play.
Oh my gosh, well this is fabulous. Well, as we continue to work here, and I say we, I need to get my hands dirty. We're going to go back in. I'm going to be working on things that have to do with the actual food that we're going to have for the party. So we've all got lots to do, but the big thing is at the end we're going to have a tea party. We're going to have this setting up opened up and ready, and we're going to invite Lucy, McClendon, and Jane to come join us for the party. So come back with us in just a few minutes.
Ask Vera is brought to you by Georgia Bank and Trust and Southern Bank and Trust.
I have a question from Kelsey Bacon in Beaufort, South Carolina. If my home doesn't have a powder room for dinner guests, what do you recommend to make another bathroom appropriate? Well, Kelsey, how about this? All right, we're getting ready for another dinner party in my home, and I want to make sure that everything's just right. Most of us have like a powder room or a guest bathroom that's nearby where the entertaining is going on that guests can use. But a lot of times in my home, because of where my master bedroom is located, lots of our guests end up in this bathroom. So I want to be sure I've cleaned the countertops of everything that we use on a normal everyday basis. And then I love to put out my pretty hand towels for guests to use. I always like to have a nice fresh flower arrangement on the counter. Make sure my soap dispenser is full. I love to have a candle lit. And then finally, make sure you put a roll of toilet tissue nearby in the water closet, so if for any reason that should run low, you don't have your guests going through your linen closet looking for more. So make sure everything is really neat and clean. You'll be glad you did. Kelsey, I hope that answered your question, and if you have a question for me, send it to askvera@nbc26.tv. And I want to remind you that North Augusta's Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee is coming up on the 30th and the 31st. It's fun for the whole family. This is unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. It's just great. You guys have been so busy, and Connie and Michaela, y'all are just, what are they? What should we call it?
They're fairy godmothers.
They're fairy godmothers. Of course they are. And this is just going to be such a big surprise for these grandchildren. So get me caught up on what you guys have been doing while I was in the kitchen.
Yeah, well, we've been busy digging in the dirt and getting everything ready. We're at the point now, all of our plants are planted. They're in there. We know where they're going to go. And this is where it really, to me, starts to come to life.
Oh, no joke.
It begins to really look like a little landscape in miniature. And so we've got our soil covers, which we have a few options on. You can see some laid down, and when this is done, you won't see any of that potting soil. It'll all be covered up with something. And again, that gives it that completed look. So
well, and also keeps the mess down a little bit,
right,
so that when, you know, Lucy and McClendon are walking around in there, they'll have protected paths.
Exactly. And they'll have paths to play on, and all these
right,
different, again, we're really setting this up for a child's imagination. Although fairy gardening's for people of all ages. We've got everyone from 2 to 92 comes in and they want a fairy garden. So it's really
well, is this an example of some of the material?
Yeah, so we've got some of the soil cover here. This is actually a live moss, which is really cool. So this is all living material. You can touch that, feel it.
Really?
The back's got kind of a sticky webbing. It's actually kind of sewn in, similar to what you might find on like a model train set kind of thing. And that we've got as our grass. So we've got some patches around here. Again, set up very specifically.
For the village look.
Right.
So there's like little communities going on.
Exactly. Like I said, we've got some little scenes going on. We've also got the pine bark mulch, again, just to use as a soil topper.
So that's,
just your basic mulch. It's inexpensive, easy to find. We sell it at Cold Creek. And we've also got some pebbles. We've got the river rocks and then the blue to give that appearance of water. We've got a little river flowing through next to our pine cone gourd that you provided.
Oh my goodness.
And we've got just all kinds of stuff going on.
And the base right there under the dogwood, as you saw when you arrived, I cut some trees off of our patio recently, and I kept a piece, and now we've brought some of the tree material that we have to the actual fairy garden. That made the perfect entrance to the tree there.
Exactly. That makes our little gnome home is what we're calling it.
Gnome home.
We've got the gnome home there. Yeah, we've got a little doorway, and that all just fit perfectly around that tree. Now we've got the big stepping stones. That's a little bit out of scale, but that's again to give that pathway and that entrance and a spot for the kids to sit and really play in without disturbing too much of what's going on. But you know, it's meant to be played with. It's meant to be fun. So there's a lot of inspiration. So we've got a few little houses here. We've got 3 there. Connie's actually working now on a veggie garden because we're all about edible gardening at Cold Creek too. So we had to do
that's
a veggie
right,
garden.
because y'all are carrying like the fresh vegetables and things when they're in season.
Yeah, local produce and specialty foods.
That is wonderful.
So we took a little knockoff of that and put in our veggie garden.
Oh, so she's got corn going on.
And some lettuce and a little
And over here where Michaela is, what in the world is going on there?
That's my favorite part. That is our playground. So we've got a slide, a campfire that actually lights up. some fireflies that are on stakes that actually glow in the dark. So at night you can peek out the window and say goodnight to the fairies.
Oh.
Because they're all glowing over
Oh
there.
my goodness, we will absolutely be doing that. And as far as the plants that you selected, as they start to creep and crawl, then I can just prune those just like I would normally be doing that sort of thing in the yard.
Absolutely. And again, we picked some plants that are going to stay on a smaller scale. So the heuchera doesn't get more than about twice the size it is now, but you can prune back. The violas will do their thing all the way through spring, and then you can switch them out. And that reminds me of something that's really cool about fairy gardening. You can change it with the seasons. There's accessories now for Halloween and Christmas and spring, and so just like you dress up your house,
you do the fairy garden the same way.
Exactly, and you can change the plants and the accessories.
Well, and you know, Lucy's mom, Mallory, has actually introduced her to weeding and stuff in the yard already,
Right.
so she's kind of already been introduced to you know, doing that sort of thing. So in terms of keeping this up, do you have any tips?
Right, well, one thing, all plants need water. So if it, you know, with the space outside, the good news is if it's been raining like it has been lately, you don't have to worry too much about watering.
Right.
But on dry days, you do need to keep a check on it. And hopefully she's planted there so much, she'll tell you something's wilting or looks a little dry, and you just want to hit it with water. Other than that, it's really easy care.
Well, we are going to wrap up and take a little break, but when we come back from the break, we are going to be putting all the finishing touches on the actual tea party that we're going to have, and then I can't wait for everybody to meet Jane, Lucy, and McClendon. So come back with us in just a few minutes.
The girls from Cold Creek are doing such a great job on the fairy garden. I'm so excited, and even more excited about some of the food we're going to have at the tea. So what I've got here is a couple of sandwiches, and you always want to keep in mind those children that have nut allergies. So I've got one that's going to use peanut butter and one that's going to use a flavored cream cheese with a crystallized sugar. I always use a paper towel that I've moistened whenever I'm doing sandwiches, just to keep everything fresh while I'm working. So I found a cute cookie cutter in the shape of a butterfly that I'm going to use to make the butterfly peanut butter sandwiches, and just a nice little coat of peanut butter on that, and then top it with a lid, and I'm putting it over here on my platter that has a mushroom on top. The next one I'm going to do is the cream cheese and sugar. I'm going to use a star cookie cutter. I'm going to spread a little bit of mascarpone cheese and then sprinkle the pink crystallized sugar, and what you have at the end is a beautiful star sandwich that's going to be the star attraction at the tea.
All right, Lucy, are you having so much fun? And this is Jane. This is my oldest granddaughter, and she is obviously in vogue with her outfit today for the garden. So she's going to love being out here in this shady area of the yard with us too, and you know, we can put things up on her tray and she can just have a big time in the fairy garden. And then I've got another grandchild that I want to introduce. And this is McClendon. McClendon is 4 months old, and you know, there's a lot of things in the fairy garden that a little boy can do too, right, Meredith?
That's right.
Oh, me. So we have just had the best time today. I look forward to so many times that I'll be out here in the yard with the children. So get us caught up on how it ended up looking as beautiful as it is right now.
Well, thank you. We've had so much fun out here today. For one, we've had beautiful weather, and we've gotten to play in the fairy garden. There's not too much more that you can ask than that, right? And we are so excited to see the grandkids already having a ball. That's what it's all about. And this is the joy of gardening. And it can start at 2 years old. And that is so cool.
Well, and the thing that I think that's so much fun about this is that there'll be different things. Like right now, she's very, very interested in the pink rocks, but as she grows up, she'll be interested in other things. And like I said, when McClendon is old enough to sit up and be out here with us, you know, there'll be things that I can introduce to him that won't be things that he would necessarily put in his mouth, but just being out here in the yard with us is just going to be great.
Absolutely.
But you guys do a lot of seminars and that sort of thing on fairy gardens. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah, as Vera mentioned, we do a lot at Cold Creek. Fairy gardening is just one part of it. And we do have a really popular fairy gardening class that we hold sometimes as often as once or twice a month in the busy season. And that you can learn how to make your own fairy garden. We provide all the soil, the container, the soil cover you want, and you pick out the plants and any accessories. We show you how to do it. It's a great way to meet other gardeners. Again, people of all ages come and do this. It's not
well,
just for
you
the
know,
little
one
ones.
of the Saturdays that I was over there, you had just finished a seminar, and it was just unbelievable how many people were there, and boys and girls were loving being with their moms or their grandparents, picking out the things that they wanted to customize their garden. And I don't know whether you noticed, but McClendon was listening to every word you said just now, because we're going to have fun doing that, aren't we?
I think he's a future gardener.
Yes, we are. We're going to have a great time. You know, what other, I know that sometimes that you will host groups from out of town to do things there, and if somebody wants more information on that, we've got your website up on the screen.
Yeah.
Is there any particular person there that they need to ask to speak to when they call?
Yeah, Michaela and I usually plan the workshops. Connie is often a teacher too. We're all out there on the ground. We do everything from not just the fairy garden workshops, but custom container gardens for all seasons. We do wreath making classes with fresh greenery at Christmas, bow making seminars, and my favorite is we're getting started with the local food and specialty foods from South Carolina and Georgia.
Important.
Well, we're doing some cooking classes in the future too. We're actually trying to do a farm to table dinner at one point and a cocktail making class.
Maybe I will have to be involved in some of that. That sounds great. So. But you know, I just want to thank you guys so much for making our dreams come true. Lucy, are you having fun? Are you having fun, Lucy? Well, forget Granny V right now, because she's very interested in this garden. But you know, for all of you parents and grandparents out there, you know, this gets children involved in things that have to do with your home and being outside, and you know, it's just a great way to interact and introduce things that have to do with plant material. And you know, obviously our fairy garden is doing, you know, everything that it needs to do, as well as the food that we created for the show. So I want to remind you to tune in again next weekend for another episode of the VeryVera Show. And as I always say, Meredith, when I close the show each week, no matter what you do, do it in good taste, and I hope you'll join us again next weekend.